This episode of the Unscripted podcast contains talks of death scenes from Suspiria 1977 that some audiences may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I feel like
Dario Argento.
Dario? Mommy made me mash my M&Ms. Dario Argento.
That's getting left in at the
Dario
beginning.
Argento, Susie Banyan, and Sarah.
Dario Orange Juice. Argentina.
Dario Argentina.
All right, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Hey, I'm Ryan Rank, and I am a senior reporter at Lart's Daily Texan Film and Television, all out of order. And today I'm joined by my co-host, my co-hostess.
Your co-hostess, Sage, Lart's associate editor.
Yes.
And fellow film enthusiast.
And welcome to Unscripted, episode 2, technically 3, but 2.
So exciting.
I'm going to stop making that joke at the beginning of each episode. But we're kind of doing an older movie today. We're doing Suspiria from 1977, as you can tell by my awesome shirt.
Why don't we tell them why we picked Suspiria for today?
Yeah, I guess we can. Why did we pick Suspiria? Suspiria.
Because it's somebody's birthday.
It's Sage's.
No,
I
it's
looked
not.
at the wrong camera. It's Sage's birthday.
No, it's not. It's Ryan's birthday.
Yeah, well, the day after this episode airs, it's my birthday.
So we thought, why not, for Ryan's birthday, celebrate by talking about his favorite movie?
Yeah, and if you stay tuned for another month, on the 26th, actually exactly on Sage's birthday, we'll be talking about a certain show that we've mentioned before.
Yeah, my favorite show.
That only true fans would know, or friends.
Yes. So, yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Suspiria is an Italian horror movie from 1977. It's made by Dario Argento, and I don't know how to describe it per se. It's not necessarily a giallo film. Most of the time, Italian filmmaking, when you're talking about horror movies, people think about giallo, like your Mario Bava's, your Fulci's, but no one really mentions Suspiria, so I don't know. Do you know what classifies a giallo?
I listened to a little bit of, I listened to a little YouTube video about it. You can explain it, though.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So the little gesture is made for our video listeners, audio listeners, love you to death. So a giallo film, I did like a little glove thing because giallo films always have the killer or the bad guy because, killers aren't always, because giallo's not always necessarily horror. Black gloves, that's kind of the staple for these. And black gloves, lots of blood and murder, and you don't really know who the killer is until the end. That's like the biggest elements of a giallo film. And so when you look at Suspiria, a lot of people say it's a giallo film because it's like, oh, it's the most famous Italian horror movie. And I feel like, I don't know what people actually classify it as, but I personally would say it's not, because I feel like the only element this movie has would be its grand set pieces and its mystery.
Yeah. And I thought there was something very specific about the killings, the death scenes in this. They felt very just dramatized, very dragged out, very just explosive.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really special about this. And it just had this, it's one of those things where I feel like now when you watch a slasher, if it has a long, drawn-out death scene, it's considered cheesy, where because this movie is from 1977, it felt so stylized and so intentional and so dramatic in the most just, delicious way for horror fans, which I really liked.
Delicious.
Yes. This was my first time watching Suspiria.
Yeah, so spoiler alert if y'all haven't seen Suspiria, because we're not really going to do a spoiler-free section.
Yeah. This was my first time watching it. I had heard of it. Especially, I love, if you know me, I love anything with witchcraft. Anything, any sort of movie that deals with a witch or a coven. Huge American Horror Story fan.
Have you seen The Witch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Just checking.
Are you joking? I love that film. But yeah, so I had heard of this movie for a bit now, but I just had never gotten around to watching it. But, I finally had the opportunity to, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so Ryan, this is your second favorite movie. So when did you first watch it?
Yeah, I was trying to think about that the other day. So the first time I was exposed to this movie was actually through a YouTuber by the name of Dead Meat. James A. Janice did a kill count on it, and this was maybe 2018, so I think my sophomore year is when I was first exposed to this movie. And like at the beginning of his video, this is when he started pushing for people to go watch the movie before you see the kill count. And this is one of the ones I hadn't seen because it's one of the lesser known ones. And so I was like, okay, I'll go check it out because it's free on Tubi, and it still is if you're interested in it. But I went and checked it out, and I was like, okay, this is good so far. It starts like right away intriguing. Like there's not really anything about it that is lame for a cold open, because that is technically a cold open. I feel like most of the time it's a hit or miss with the cold open. Like I think of Friday the 13th, and the cold open for that movie is one of the worst things I've ever watched, even though it's a classic movie. But then, so I watched the Suspiria from the kill count, and I just kind of instantly grew in love with it, mainly for its color. And this is before I knew I was gonna be a film student. At this point in my life, I think I was like, I'm gonna be an architect. I'm gonna go actually try to make money. And then I realized that's boring. So it's kind of at a time where I wasn't quite a film student, but I would say it definitely pushed me towards wanting to make movies. That kind of gives you a background of.
So what about the movie? You said the color.
Yeah, lighting and color.
Why would you pitch? Because I think at this point, Suspiria is definitely considered a horror classic, and I definitely most of the time hear it talked about as a horror classic. So why do you think it has that reputation in film?
I would say it's for the same reason I like it. I think this movie takes a risk in itself, because this movie came out in 1977, and at the time, a lot of horror movies were just very bland in terms of colors. Like I think the only horror movie I can think of you could say had interesting lighting and color would be maybe Jaws, and that's only because it's outside.
Yeah.
Because like The Exorcist, which is Exorcist 74, I think it's 1974. A lot of greens and blues and dark colors, which that's all fine. Like that works in a horror movie. But this movie did something different in that it wasn't all warm tones. It wasn't all cool tones. It was just a mix of everything. And its lighting felt supernatural. It felt like very Alice in Wonderland-esque, which is what I think makes this movie so good. Because if you just had this movie without all the colors, it would still be a good movie, but I don't think it would be interesting. And what I mean, I guess, by color, for those who haven't seen the movie, a lot of time Argento and I guess the cinematographer who worked on it and the gaffer. Is that right? Gaffer's for lighting.
Yeah.
I'm a film student asking that question. I don't know why. I never use the technical terms.
Me responding as if I know anything about film sets.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Anyway, so the gaffer and all them working on the lighting. It's kind of this whole setup of, like you have blues in scenarios that don't make sense. Like there's a scene where the main character gets sick. She's in bed, and there's this green light just to the right of her for some reason. It's not really there for the story. It's just there. And it's like, this is the world. Or there's a whole scene where everyone is sleeping in the gymnasium because maggots fall through the ceiling and they have to go sleep in there. And the entire room is shrouded in red. And obviously in the sense of the story, it's a pitch black room. Like they are in a dark room. But for the audience and for us, we're seeing them covered in red lighting, which just makes it that much more interesting. It gives it a dreamlike sense of just unrealism.
Yeah, and also I feel like the lighting that you're talking about, like the very stark, saturated color in the film is very much specific to scenes dealing with the school. Like I feel like there's a big division of whenever the characters are outside of the school versus when they're in it. Like even from the very beginning, the main character, Susie, she hops off. She flies, because she's coming to Germany from New York. So she's leaving the airport. The airport is just very, kind of bland looking, just, your typical airport. And then the second she steps outside, she's, bathed in this, bright red and blue color, which I think is so beautiful. And it just, immediately kind of introduces you into, the world of the film and his style. And then even, when she gets to the school, immediately, that was what struck me the most of the whole movie was the set. The world building. I just thought it was very interesting, the style of the way that the school looks. It's very colorful. It has these really interesting cathedral-esque I don't know.
I would say cathedral-esque, but it's also supposed to make you feel safe and comfortable.
Yes.
It's supposed to be feeling fun.
Yes. It just felt very funhousey almost, which I think kind of is the point. It's kind of supposed to feel funky and abnormal. It doesn't feel like your normal, like what you would imagine like a ballet academy looking like. Because when you think, I think especially because like when you think of ballet, you think of very like streamlined, very traditional, very like strict. Those are all
Cutthroat.
Yeah, cutthroat. Those
Literally
are all,
in
yes,
this
yes,
movie.
yes. Literally. Like those are all words that come to mind when you think of ballet. So
Yeah.
the fact that this ballet school is set in this like very like colorful fun house you know, whimsical setting is very interesting. And then you throw the color in there and then it's just this very like stylized set.
Yeah. I often compare my love for this movie to my love for Alice in Wonderland. So that's my favorite Disney movie, purely on the grounds of visuals and the weird story, right? And when you kind of look at this movie, and you, like you were saying, she steps out of this airport. The airport's really bland and normal, and all of a sudden there's color everywhere, and there's all these weird things happening. And it's kind of, in a way, a telling or a kind of the same way you do it in Alice in Wonderland, because at the very beginning of Alice in Wonderland, she's just in this, you know, bland, pretty field, but it's bland, and she follows the rabbit, and then instantly color, she's fallen down and like right into the thick of it and doesn't even question it. And that's kind of the character Susie we follow throughout the entire movie. She's, I would say, up until the very end, she just kind of accepts everything. She's not like her friend.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like usually I feel like you see the main character poking their nose at things and trying to get to the bottom of things and kind of chasing the mystery in a horror film. But with her, she's very like, the only reason she's motivated to kind of like seek out, oh, what's going on at this school is because her friends are coming to her, telling her about these weird things.
Yeah.
Even when it's her, like she's the one that's
Drunk
seemingly,
in bed. Well, not drunk. I don't even know what you'd call that.
Like they had a spell on her.
It was a spell, but like, how do you under
like,
a spell?
Like it was like it's so funny because like they would always like show scenes like that where she was like in the middle of the night, and I was like, is she just tired, or is there like a sleep spell on her? It's interesting. I feel like I was assuming that the teachers put a sleep spell on.
Yeah, I believe so. So the teachers are
students.
witches.
Yeah.
If that's not
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, because we're kind of
teachers are
jumping
witches.
around, but the teachers are witches. It's a coven.
I thought that was so funny. The scene where she was like, she kept falling asleep, and then
Friend's like, Susie,
she's like, Susie,
get up! What are you doing? And then the
Yeah.
wardrobe opens,
Yeah.
and she has to leave. It's so good.
Let's talk about the color. Let's go back to color symbolism.
Yeah,
real
sorry, we jumped off track.
Because that's such a big part of the movie. Do you know how much do you know about like what do you know what the specific colors mean?
I personally have not dug into like what the colors mean in this. I would honestly say, knowing like interviews I've seen of Dario Argento, it strikes me as there's less symbolism to the colors and more just uneasy tension of like, this isn't reality kind of vibes. That's what I get from it more. I don't know if that's exactly his intention. I'd have to look into that. But for me, I feel like the colors are more just to drive the eerie dream, like divine visuals. Because when you think about it, the colors also kind of go with the music in that regard. But what were you thinking about the colors? Since you kind of have, it kind of sounds like you're on this track with that.
I mean, I saw, if anything, the color red. I thought that might have more explicit symbolism than the other colors. It seemed to me like I felt like he put a lot of emphasis on primary colors.
Yeah.
There was mostly red, blue, and yellow. There was some green as well.
The green was like very subtle, and the one time I remember green the most is it's on the doctor.
Yeah.
And there's got to be something for that. I couldn't tell you why, but there's also very few men in this movie, so maybe that's why.
I felt like anytime I saw green, it was kind of like a sign of maybe intelligence or intellect or kind of truth even, because the other time I saw green very notably was at the end before she enters the tunnels, when she's in the office area at the very end, and it's like right before she remembers, oh, the irises, and goes to turn them. And so I was thinking maybe that's what the green symbolized, which I think would make sense because green is like equated with like money and truth and
that makes
luck.
sense.
So
because then red's probably just obviously danger. Because the one scene that's completely red was that gymnasium scene I was talking about, and that's when they realized that one of the three mothers is there, is present. Which, for those who don't know, the three mothers, it's a trilogy of movies from Dario Argento, starting with Suspiria, and each one, I guess, is this like ultimate witch, I guess, the leader of witches in that area, and each movie takes place in a different spot, so technically they're connected, but not really. I haven't seen the other two, but
me neither.
Suspiria specifically, introduces that first mother in that one scene.
And this is Mother of Sighs, I believe.
Yes.
Lady of the Sighs.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting because I was doing a little bit of digging on the implications of that in this movie. I definitely think that played out most in the music, the sound design, because I thought that like the chanting and the music was another aspect of the film that I really liked. I loved the score of this because it felt so magical and so very choral, very chant based, which makes sense for a movie about witches. And then there was a lot of like breathy vocalizations in the score, like a lot of like.
Did you notice the foreshadowing in the
No.
score? So it's a lot less noticeable if you have seen, or it's a lot more noticeable in second watch. But a lot of the main theme song that's like the dun 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 dun, dun with the chimes and stuff, they say witch in the song, and that's throughout the entire movie. Because when this movie came out, no one knew it was about witches.
Yeah.
And like everyone knows now because it's been what 40 years, 50. Oh wow, that's crazy. But yeah, so no, in the opening song when she's leaving the airport, and the first time you hear the theme song, you hear the part in the song where with the raspy voice he goes witch witch. It's like they kind of tell you what's happening in the music, which you know when the witches are coming when the theme kicks in.
100%. It's the theme is so eerie.
It's distinct, yeah.
And it's high intensity, which makes sense for sure. But I thought that it makes sense that this movie is about the Mother of Sighs, knowing the soundtrack. I'd be curious to see. Have you seen the sequel?
No, I haven't. Wait, the 2018 one?
The 2018.
Yeah,
not
I
the
have.
sequel, the remake.
Yeah, I saw the remake.
Okay, what did you think? I haven't seen it.
I like it. As a fan of the original, I treat the requel as its own retelling of the story because it's got a lot of good elements, but it's not trying to be the original. It's trying to be its own thing. So there's like no color, so that's an automatic like no for me for the most part. It digs more deep into the German politics of the time that are like slightly present in the first one but are subtext, but it makes it text and the main point of the movie. And they include all three mothers by the end of it. So instead of having a trilogy of movies, the requel of Suspiria basically encapsulates the entire trilogy without actually showing the other movies, because I haven't seen the other movies, so I also can't like compare them to the requel, but because it's a 3-hour movie. Not the original, the remake.
I'll be honest, I went to watch it this morning and maybe it's just because I was tired, but I kept having to pause and like close my eyes, and I didn't end up finishing it.
I don't blame you.
It was really long.
I've only seen it twice, and the first time, it's not as rewatchable for me as Suspiria, the original, but the first time I watched the 2018 remake was 2 months ago, and so I had to pause halfway through and just go do something else, because it's not bad by any means, but it's just so real.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the remake and the original, is that it's much more real.
That's something I loved about Suspiria in 1977.
Yeah.
Is how campy it felt.
Yeah.
Especially when it came to the killings. Just the paint as blood was so striking, and so I wouldn't necessarily call it gory. It was like the opposite. Like it felt very like
it's artsy.
Yes, storybook-esque in a way.
It reminds me of if you go to an art museum and you see paintings of like, oh, this person was beheaded. Like, it's still beautiful to look at those paintings, even though they're graphic. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what Suspiria and I feel like Argento went for, because a lot of these kills, you're looking at them and you're like, I would hang that in my house if it were a painting. Like, sounds dark, but they are really pretty shots. Like, maybe we should dig into the cold open if we're talking about kills.
Yeah, let's talk about the opening.
Because this opening is one of the most iconic openings in horror history. Yeah, I mean, do you want to dive into it actually?
Yeah,
because you're it's like this is your first time seeing it. I've seen it like 8 times.
Let me talk about let me tell you my reaction to it. So she gets into the taxi. She goes to the school, and immediately she pulls up to the school, and it is raining torrentially. And there's a girl
Tanz Academy, by the way.
Tanz Academy,
which just means Tanz. It just means dance in I guess German.
So she pulls up to Ton's academy, and she knocks on the door, and no one's letting her in. And there's even a female voice who's later revealed to be her friend Sarah, who ends up being her closest friend at the academy. But spoiler alert, Sarah does not survive to the end.
Most
people don't.
Most like main characters don't.
That's when we see Patricia
running through the woods.
It's and she
weird.
It is that. I mean, that if you didn't know that it's the movie's about witches, that should
that's weird.
That should click for you at that moment. But she's running through that was one of my favorite shots of the movie.
Yeah.
It was just the way that just her body was illuminated.
And Susie can see it through the cab.
Yes.
And it's like a first person from Susie's perspective.
It was so well done. But she is running through the woods. And we see a brief interaction with who I assume is her mother. Where she talks about leaving the school.
No, that's her friend. That's
her
a friend. Yeah, that was a friend of hers. That's also unless that is her mother.
I couldn't tell.
How do I not know this?
Yeah, your second favorite movie.
Yeah, right.
But she is having to talk about leaving the school, and she seems very unsettled.
Yeah.
And very on edge, very shaky. And then she is attacked through her window. She's looking through her window, and she just seems very paranoid, very frightened. And that's when we see a set of two glowing yellow eyes.
Yeah, someone says that's supposed to return in the sequels. I've never actually seen them, so I can't tell you. But the yellow eyes,
unsettling. Especially the thing is, I mean, I think of course now when you watch it, it's not as unsettling because we have 21st century technology now, but
when we're like in lit rooms with sound speakers.
Exactly. Yeah. If this was in 1977 and I saw that would be deeply unsettling.
Especially in like a movie theater with a whole crowd of people.
Oh my god. But yeah, so we see the green eyes, the yellow eyes, and then a hand reaches through the glass, breaks through the glass, and then presses her face against the glass and suffocating her, which I thought was really...
It's weird.
That was
funny.
That was kind of funny, but that was deeply real.
Because they take her out to the balcony, or the roof,
and then she's being suffocated against this glass, and then
you know whose hands that were?
Whose?
I believe I'd have to look this up to confirm. I believe those are Dario Argento's hands.
Oh my god!
He got his little cameo.
And then I can't even imagine that feeling. Especially it looked pretty real, like her face being squished against the glass.
Because it's meant to look funny, but it is very dark what's happening there.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I got with most of the kills. They were supposed to be kind of comedic and over the top, but still
deeply disturbing.
Disturbing, yeah. But so then, what happens after her faces?
So I can't remember if she's pulled out on a balcony or something, or roof. This movie's very weird with his spatial awareness.
Yeah.
But basically that's when she just starts getting stabbed.
Yes.
And then there's this shot of her heart, an
yes.
exposed heart,
and it's beating still.
Yeah.
And he just goes and stabs. And
I mean, it looks really fake, and it looks like a piece of steak, but it's still that's metal. Yeah. That is sick.
And then we see her fall through after she gets stabbed.
Well, she's getting stabbed on the stained glass, I believe, at that point. And she's walking onto it, and then her head hits the stained glass.
And falls through.
Makes
and
a little crack, and her head falls through,
Yeah, we just see her head falling, hanging from the ceiling, kind of. Still attached to her body, but we just see her head, cracking through the stained glass.
Because the glass breaks as her friend is coming through to see her, or her mom. I thought it was one of her friends from the academy, but I can't remember. Maybe they don't specify. But anyway... They go down, and the glass breaks, her head's through it, and then she gets, a cable wrapped around her neck. And she's already dead by this point anyway.
Yeah.
But she falls through the ceiling with the cable, right around her neck loosely. It pulls, and then her head gets tilted sideways. Her body's hanging there, blood dripping down.
And again, the blood, that's actually just red paint dripping, and it is so vibrant, and so it, ingrained in my mind
It's an eerie shot.
I can just see it.
It looks pretty, but it's traumatized. That is a dark shot, and that's
100%.
the first 20 minutes of the movie.
So
and she kills her friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the stained glass, obviously stained glass has supports in it, and I guess those were the supports of the stained glass. One's in her forehead, and one's in her throat, one's in her chest, or something like that. She basically gets bifurcated in the face by a plane of glass that had fallen from when her friend fell through, and then she has a spike in her neck and in her chest. Like,
Yeah.
it's a brutal scene, but it's
Yeah.
pretty.
It's very pretty, and it's very disorienting, I think.
Mm-hmm. And that glass, you can see, I believe, I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can see a reflection of her face. You know how when you put a glass or a mirror up to your face and you're like, oh, look, oh, I can cross my eyes.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks like that, so it's very pretty.
Also,
very
I think
graphic.
it's cool that the witch reveal is definitely saved for the end, because they definitely promote this movie as a slasher, for sure. Because these very like bloody, gory death scenes throughout the movie, and because typically with witch movies, it's very much like spell based and a lot more like poison, witch's brew, that sort of thing. But in this movie, at the up until the very end, when she's having that conversation, and she's like, "Do you believe in witches?" But up until that point, it very much comes off like a slasher.
When you don't know what's going on, you never see the killer. Like, there's no hand POV. There's nothing except for that opening.
And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know that the movie was about witchcraft.
I didn't tell you
watched
anything. I just said watch it.
And I didn't read anything about it. All I knew is that it was at a ballet academy and people were dying. That's all I knew.
That's all you need to know. It's great.
Yes. Which makes sense. It definitely makes sense in this movie where it's like a very female ensemble. Not that men can't be witches, but traditionally women are witches.
Well, and this movie also has an underlining tone of like girl power.
Which I love. But yeah, I think that was really cool. That reveal was really interesting, especially because like she's just sitting there and she's like, "What do you know about witches?"
Yeah.
And then he tells her about the mother of sighs.
Yeah.
Who is essentially kind of like the final boss in a way. Who has haunted this area of Germany forever.
Because plot twist, the dance academy used to be a coven, and it
Yes.
still is.
It still is.
But it's also a dance academy now.
These witches just know like classical ballet.
We're gonna teach people ballet and then kill them.
Let's talk about, on the topic of killings, let's also talk about Sarah's death, which was by far my favorite sequence.
The barbed wire?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So Sarah is she's very frantically trying to get Susie's attention while she's under the sleep spell.
This is Susie's best friend who figures out things are going weird at the academy because, like, Patricia... They found out Patricia died.
Yes.
Right? They find out Patricia died. They're like, that's weird. She just left. So they think something's going on. They're like, oh, we always hear them walking through the hallways at night. So, like, at one point, she's tracking their footsteps to figure out which direction they're going.
Which was so funny because I'm like, I know you cannot hear their footsteps, like, all the way down.
I couldn't either. Like,
No.
just sitting there listening to the movie, I couldn't hear the footsteps.
At all. No. Which I thought was so funny. It was so funny to me because, like, they kept having these very melodramatic moments of, I remember what Patricia said, or we can count the steps, and it was so funny.
And then the rock score from Goblin comes in, and
But like I was like watching this with friends, and we were like, she does not remember that. She did not hear that. No, not at all. But yeah, so Sarah's kind of trying to like get Susie to wake up.
She figured out it's witches.
She figured out everything about the witches, and Susie's not waking up. She's still under the like sleep spell, and she's trying to like just get her awake. And then she hears people coming
through this like clock door.
Yeah, through this like wardrobe clock.
Something. It's a door that shouldn't be a door.
And light starts, the classic like
white lights.
Yeah, the white lights start flashing into the room. Again, a sign of danger, and she just leaves, which is funny.
Peace. She stores the little note that says they're witches and then leaves.
Yeah, she runs. To no avail. She leaves and then
to a very blue hallway.
Yes, to a very blue hallway, and that's where I'm having trouble remembering.
She like climbs through a window, right, into a room, and then she gets into this room of barbed wire.
Yes.
She traps herself in there trying to escape.
Yes, she's fleeing from
the witch.
The witches.
It's not like they show which witch.
No, but is someone chasing her?
Yeah, she's getting chased.
She's being chased.
I'm assuming it's the people from the Susie's room.
Yes.
Because they know by that point that she's caught on.
Yeah, so they're chasing her, and she I thought it was really that scene where she like puts the latch on the door and they're trying to cut it open with a knife. I was like, hold down the latch.
Yeah.
Please hold down the latch.
Just hold it.
Just hold it. That's all you
They
have to
literally
do.
can't cut you.
No. But yeah, so she doesn't hold down the latch. Instead,
No.
she stacks a bunch of boxes and tries to climb through the window. And of course, she doesn't look down. And she falls into this room just full of barbed wire.
Which also, why is there just a connecting window between two rooms?
yeah.
I still question that.
And why?
Because she like
yeah,
locks
two
herself
indoor
in this like
rooms.
storage closet thingy, and that's the whole sequence with the oh no, the knife's going through the door. It's
Yeah.
opening it up. It's like this thick board. Like a knife's not gonna cut through that. It's
And it was
so
like a
funny.
butter knife too. I remember it was like a very like soft.
It looked
blade.
like a soft blade. Yeah.
Yeah, for
it doesn't
sure.
look intense until she dies.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that scene was. Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, because
she crawls through that window.
she
and
crawls
then
through
falls
the
into
window.
the barbed wire, and there's like blood all over her.
And
'cause
she's
it's
trying to
barbed
swim
wire.
out. It almost like it was like imagine like like when you're trying to get out of like a foam pit and you can't really. That's what it reminded me of, except this time it's barbed wire.
Yeah.
And she's just being like slowly like.
Because the barbed wire in this movie, usually barbed wire looks awful and looks painful. The barbed wire in this movie doesn't really look painful,
No.
but you just hear her screams and see the blood, and it's kind of like...
Yeah, because you don't really see any spikes or you don't see any like, I don't know. She's just like clearly struggling to get out of it.
It just
you
looks
know?
like silver streamers.
Yeah, like I saw someone say maybe it's like piano wire. Not that I know what that is.
That could work.
But
I didn't even think about that. I thought it was barbed wire.
I thought it was barbed wire too, because I feel like if it was piano wire, she wouldn't be like screaming, and I don't think it would hurt as bad. to
Yeah,
get
was she
out.
screaming now that I think about it?
She was.
She was, right?
I mean, she definitely was in pain. I don't know about screaming, but she definitely like was in a lot of pain and like trying to get out.
Yeah, so the person comes in the
Um,
room,
And starts
takes the
stabbing
little
her.
butter knife. No, he slits her throat.
Right.
And this is the one, like, this is the close-up on the throat. So they start
Yes.
sliding across it. And it looks like, have you ever seen those videos where people are, like, cutting open water balloons and there's, like, more layers and stuff?
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
Yes, you're so right about that. Every killing in this movie is very, like I said before, slow. Is they took their time.
That's the giallo element, I would say.
Very just like delicate, very slow, very drawn out. And it's interesting because like every time a character is killed, something I noticed is that like the killer is definitely taking their time, but then it's not like the victim's reaction is slowed at all. The victim is very much screaming and is in exactly. The victim is dying like a very slow, grueling death.
Yeah.
While the killer is always just very delicately like slitting the throats.
Let's make a little cake out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a
So,
slice.
I thought that was my favorite scene.
Yeah.
And there were just so many beautiful scenes too where Sarah was like bathed in blue light, and I think that was definitely because I could see blue kind of being a metaphor for like knowledge or clarity
Maybe.
of like realizing
Yeah.
things.
She's not in the
because-
dark anymore.
Yeah, she's not in the dark. I could just because throughout that sequence she's often bathed in blue light, and I think that might be because she knew, she knows what's chasing her.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense because in there's that later scene where Susie has blue light on her while the red light grows on her face.
Yeah.
And she's like holding the knife. She's like,
Maybe
that's my favorite scene.
I could even see like red, you're approaching danger, blue, you're running from it. I could see that as well.
Yeah.
That kind of seemed like that might be the case just because this was a very blue heavy sequence.
But then there's no red in it when she dies.
True.
Maybe it wasn't danger. Maybe she accidentally slit her own throat. Plot twist.
Plot
No, just
twist.
kidding.
Plot twist. Maybe. Let's ask Dario Argento.
Yeah,
what
right.
he thinks.
He still makes movies. He
Yeah.
just released one recently, or at least produced one. I don't know. Whatever.
But yeah, so that was the
Another
second
death. No, that was the third death actually.
Right.
You forgot the blind pianist, who's one of the few guys in this
Oh,
movie.
let's talk about that. What did you think of that?
What do you mean?
That death, or that whole character.
I think the character is really fun.
Okay.
I think it was kind of just thrown in to be like, don't cross the witches.
For dramatic
Because at this
effect.
point, you don't know it's witches yet. So you still think it's a killer. So it would just make sense. They wanted you to make, what's the teacher's name? Was the really like, smile?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's this teacher. I forget her name. I'm really bad with names. But she has this like really big smile. It looks like she's going to crack her teeth with the amount of pressure she's applying to those chompers.
Yeah. There's something about any character in a horror movie that smiles a lot. Freaks me out.
Have you seen the Emoji Movie?
No.
She looks like the girl from the Emoji Movie.
What a connection.
The main villain of the Emoji Movie.
She does.
She smiles. I'll put it on the.
Why does she have a? Is that how the characters look in the Emoji Movie? They have human bodies. Ugh.
It's uncomfortable.
That's uncomfortable.
I don't like that movie. That's a horror movie. But yeah, no. So they set up this whole thing with the pianist and like getting his dog bites one of the kids because there's this. What's her name? Why
That's
did I
the theme
forget
of
all
this
these
episode.
things?
I don't know anyone's name either.
We're both tired and we don't know anyone's names. What's your name?
I don't know. What's your name?
I don't know. That's the joke I was gonna make because there's that one scene. I heard people whose names start with the letter S are snakes. And I was like, Sage, are you a snake?
When I was watching that with my friends, everyone immediately turned and looked at me.
And then Susie's in between these two characters, and the other two dancers go, and it's like, get a room, just kiss already.
That scene was actually so funny. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah.
But anyway, pianist. There's this pianist. He's obviously he's blind and he has a senile dog, and he leaves the dog outside, which like that's bold. I feel like you would still need the dog to get up all those flights of stairs at the school because the staircase is wild.
Oh my god, yeah.
But basically, there's like some of the people that work there and just like clean up the place. That has a little kid with them for whatever reason, and the kid gets bit by a dog off camera supposedly. And so he's like, no, my dog wouldn't do that because obviously you have to train a dog to be a senile dog.
Which, do you think the kid was actually bit?
I think there's two possibilities. I think the kid was either bit and it was the witches making the kid bit because the kid doesn't know about witches. Like, it's not the kid's fault. Yeah. Or no, just didn't get bit. Yeah. But I mean, like, they did take the kid to the hospital, so it would make sense. And like the police showed up apparently and things like that, so it would make sense.
I do agree. I think the kid was bit, but I think the witches orchestrated it
because then it makes sense later. Yeah. But anyway, the pianist gets kicked out by Miss Smiley is what we're gonna call her because she's got a big smile.
Miss Emoji Movie.
She's so fun, Miss Emoji Movie. But she's like, get out of this place, and she does something really disrespectful. She throws his cane across the room in front of all these dancers.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah, it's really rough.
Sad. Yeah, and then this poor guy, he wanders into a plaza. And
after being at a German bar where they're all doing the slap dances. But yeah, like they set up that teacher to be like, she's the killer. That's why she was so brutal in that scene. Yeah,
which I never thought, it definitely just, I think the nature of this movie, because like you said, it is so like whimsical, Alice in Wonderland, fairy tale-esque. It seemed like there was definitely something supernatural at play. But yeah, at that point, I wasn't necessarily suspecting witches.
Really?
I don't know what I was suspecting, but
something sus.
Something
Suspiria.
But he wanders into the plaza by himself, and that's where his dog. We start hearing the theme, the chanting, and that's when the dog turns on him.
Well, first, I don't know if you caught this. So he's in this plaza with no one there after he got kicked out of a German bar. These guys are slapping each other.
Talk about a colorless scene.
That's a colorless scene. It's just white and black.
100%.
I mean, minus obviously the character and the dog.
Because again, we're outside of the
academy. But the lighting still gets played with in a little bit, even though it's not colored. So he's in the plaza. It's this wide open area. Think like, paintings of people within like Greek colosseums or like Greek party places, and it's just flat with pillars, just no pillars and just flat, and then these two magnificent white buildings with pillars near him. So he's just in the middle of this nothing plaza, which I'm sure is some significant plaza in Germany. I just don't know what it is. Yeah. And he starts hearing like you said, the score picks up, but then the wind picks up and his dog starts barking. But on the buildings, this is what I was hoping you'd catch, but I don't know if you did. You see light moving with shadows.
Yes,
and my theory is those are the witches on their brooms. He just can't see it.
Oh, interesting.
Because he's blind.
Interesting. Do you know what I thought that kind of was?
What?
But I think your theory is a lot more plausible than mine. I was thinking, just because there were like, it seemed like there were little reliefs of like chariots.
Oh, yeah.
On the buildings, and I thought, that was my first thought for some reason, was that like they were coming to life and they were like, because that's cool, that's what like the sound, that's what it kind of sounded like to me, but I don't know what this is like what the significance of that would be. So I think I definitely see yours more, especially because we see later that the witch that is haunting the place is invisible.
Yeah. But see, I feel like that's the thing, though. Like, the way this movie's made, it can be up to interpretation. So honestly, it's shot in a way that both of us could be right.
Yeah, it definitely just seemed like there was a magical force. I mean, clearly, like, the witches were at play there. But yeah, I did see the shadows, and that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
It definitely gave me very Night at the Museum, you know, as, like, the little sculptures are coming to life. That's what I saw, even though we never see anything come to life, but that's what I imagined.
Yeah. Because they then trigger this dog into attack mode. So he's like looking up his owner, looking around, looking up, and then just freaking jumps at his jugular, dude.
As sad as that scene was, I was so glad nothing happened to the dog.
Yeah, no.
I was like, oh my gosh. Just anytime there's a dog in the movie, especially because the dog, like, bit a kid, supposedly, I was like, oh my god, what are they going to do to the dog? But nothing.
Well, he bites his jugular.
Yeah.
So this bleeding person's on the ground. The dog's, like, chomping at it.
Again, the paint.
It's like a hand puppet. You can clearly tell it's a hand puppet grabbing this guy's throat, but it still looks good. And there's, like, blood coming out. And he's like, his eyes are all twitchy. And the police see it. And they have these shots of the dog pulling up throat meat. It's really gross.
That was brutal.
Chomping on the throat meat like it's a good sirloin steak.
That was brutal.
And the police are like, "Oh, that's not good." So they run over to this dog, and they don't really show what happens to the dog. I think the dog was fine because I hear them yell at the dog, and then, like, that's the end of the scene. So, like, the witches, I guess, put a spell on him to make him more aggressive, and that's my theory with the boy as well. Yeah,
100%, I agree. So yeah, then after that,
we haven't even mentioned the biggest thing. Before this, the little boy and that housekeeper of the dance academy have this little weird mirror. And while Susie's walking down the hallway, this is the whole setup for Susie being sick and tired, like we mentioned. They flash this light at Susie, and it, like, gives her this crazy, like, headache in the moment, but it slowly drifts into this illness, and she's trying to dance through the scene, and she eventually collapses on the floor, and that's the start of her sickness arc.
I interpreted that. I could even see that being interpreted as, like, the sleep spell. Just, it seemed like in that moment she got very sleepy. And it's like she was so weak and, like, she couldn't get up. Yeah. She falls to the floor and she starts bleeding.
Because then my question is the doctor in on it? Because the doctor says, "Oh, you just, like, tore some stuff," or what did he say?
Oh, I definitely think I was of the thought that all of the staff are in on it.
All the staff, but is it? I thought they brought in the doctor from town. Is he an actual staff member there?
That's a good question, but I mean, we do know it's a trilogy, and there are other, like, covens in the universe.
True. I don't know if they'll connect though. I'd have to see. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Maybe I'll go watch them for August myself.
We do. I know. Me too. But I think he was. Three possibilities. He was in on it, or it's magic. It's not explainable.
Yeah.
So it very well could have been, like, he doesn't know. Like, there's no, like, physical signs of, like, poison. It
was hemorrhaging. That's what it was. He was talking about hemorrhaging.
Yeah. I think it's plausible that he wasn't in on it.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Because it also goes into that further thing about, like, the movie's primarily a female cast.
Yeah.
And so the side character doesn't actually have any presence in the story, is a male. I don't know. Maybe something with that. Because I feel like this is a very girl power movie.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
No, yeah. I think that's really interesting now that I'm thinking of it, because, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be able to know. He wouldn't be able to diagnose any of these students that were having these, like, ailments.
Yeah.
Because it's all magic.
It's all magic.
It's all magic.
Imagine if your heart just magically imploded with a knife, and then you fell through a ceiling. Like, how are you going to diagnose that?
No, that's why. She went crazy. She's missing.
A lot of this movie's like, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
It's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
Even after 8 times, I think I still miss things.
Yeah. But, yeah, let's keep going. So.
Yeah. Susie's sick. Blind man died. This is around the time Sarah's starting to figure out the witch's stuff, which we already talked about her death. Yeah. But kind of the build up to that is interesting.
Yes. And so.
Because there's maggots.
The maggots. Ooh. I don't have you have issues with bugs.
No, I just have issues with spiders.
Just spiders.
Just spiders.
No
Literally
bugs.
nothing else. Just if you put a spider in front of me, I'll freak out. You put a maggot.
See,
I'm just kidding.
see, like what? Like, I think maggots are objectively scarier. Than
Nah.
spiders.
If you told me here's a vat of maggots and here's a vat of spiders, first of all, I probably wouldn't be your friend after that. But secondly, I would jump into the pit of maggots.
If you know what, I say that, but at the same time, like if I was combing my hair and a bunch of maggots were in my comb, I'd be kind of
A wreck.
a wreck.
I would just be like grossed
I think
out.
I'd shave my head.
You'd shave your head?
I think I would literally have to boil my hair.
See, but that's not boil your hair.
I'd have to boil my hair to get rid of like the maggot.
So you're putting your entire head into boiling water.
Just my hair. Just my hair.
What's
I
your
don't-
hair attached to, out of curiosity?
My head.
Okay, I was just curious.
But anyways, so yeah, so she's combing her hair, maggots. There's maggots everywhere, all in the wood.
In the comb, the first
In
time you see the
the-
maggots is really cool.
It's so funny. I watched this with my friend who has like an intense fear of bugs.
Really?
She was freaked out. Like,
Yeah.
she couldn't watch it.
Because maggots are falling through the ceiling into all of these girls' rooms because they all live at the academy.
That's horrifying to think about.
Maggots falling through the ceiling?
Yeah. Like, and it's that, like, maggots, I don't think it, like, are a fear of mine, but I feel like if I was in close quarters with them and they were in my hair falling through the ceiling, like, going, like, in, like, at my feet.
Yeah.
Ugh,
They
that was...
they go to explore it.
What do you think was the point? What do you think was the point of that? My thought was kind of like the witches needed something to like distract them. Maybe they were.
I think because the mother is coming in, right? I don't know what the purpose of that is. Now that I actually sit down and think about that, I don't think I've ever actually pondered that. I think it just said, yeah, there's spoiled food in the attic.
That
makes
like, I thought
sense.
that was like after the reveal, like that was the work of the witches.
I bet it was like they
think.
were bringing more witches in or something, and they needed to
Yeah,
keep
they
things
needed
secret and
distraction.
keep all the girls in one spot, so it's easier to control that. That's what I think it was.
I also was thinking maybe like I think it would be cool. I do think because you know the reveal that witchcraft is at play isn't like brought to attention till the end. I think it leaves viewers after they watch it with a whole that could have been witchcraft too, or maybe they were doing this. Like it leaves a lot up for your imagination as a viewer.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, what if like the school, because again, as we talked about, the set is so disorienting and so like twisty, like, you know, just so Wonderland-esque. What if like the school kind of like shapeshifted? Do you know what I mean? Like, what if like they had like the power to like change the halls? Like, I think a lot of scenes just felt very like maze-like.
That
like,
would make sense,
labyrinth-like.
especially like with the window into another room and then barbed wire in there.
Yeah,
Or
I
even if
think-
it was piano wire, it's still weird to have a room full of that stuff.
Do you think that was a booby trap?
I don't know. Probably.
I think
Honestly,
I
probably.
think it was.
I mean, if it would make sense as well, like you're saying, like the transformation stuff, like they can just magically make these rooms happen.
Yeah, either the transformation or like even if like they were just kind of trying to create this like traps, like the window, that doesn't really make sense, but they think, oh, but that's to the outside. Nope, you're gonna fall into a room of barbed wire. I thought that was a possibility too, but yeah, the maggots are infesting the school. They're all in this one room. That's when Sarah starts to realize the mother is evil.
Yeah, because they go into like it's not really a gym, but there's this big dance studio. They turn into like a sleeping quarters for all the dancers, and this is like the scene shrouded in red light. Is that the right word? Shrouded?
Yeah.
Okay, shrouded in red light. And they hear this weird snoring behind them.
That was so funny.
That's what it sounds like.
This is our sound effect episode. We've been doing a lot of sound effects.
It also sounds like a zombie, but she's like raspy voice behind the curtain, and you can see her silhouette. But on the silhouette, there's like this red lump on the silhouette.
Yeah.
Really cool.
What did that symbolize?
I don't know, but it was cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this movie, the
Is just
decisions were just,
cool.
that looks cool and creepy. Let's do it. You know?
No, I do like it. Definitely felt like Dario Argento had a lot of creative agency on this film, which
Yeah.
I loved. It was just so experimental, and so there's so much room to fill in the blank. Shall we get into the end sequence?
Yeah,
of the
do you want
movie?
to break down the ending? Because it's weird.
So she has a meeting with this man who is. Do we know who he is? Do you remember?
Is he what does his face look like? See the one with the weird face, and he goes, "Don't worry, he's ugly."
This is the guy she meets up where he's like tells her about the witch.
Oh, the one who loves her.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one who has the hots for her, right?
What?
Isn't that what they say in the gymnasium? Which kid is this? Is this the blonde kid?
No, that was funny too.
They go, "He has the hots for you," or something like that. What's the line?
They were like, "He sure is cute."
"He sure is."
That was so weird when he like peeked over the curtain and was like, he was like.
And what you just missed, audio listeners, is us doing weird jazz hands. Love you to death, audio listeners.
This is an episode to watch.
This is an episode to watch if you want weird,
especially
funky
because
jazz
Ryan has a
hands.
sick Suspiria shirt on. That is so cute.
Oh, it has the murdered girl on it, doesn't it?
Spoilers.
No, that's not a spoiler. We already talked about it.
The irises.
Look. Oh. yeah,
We
technically
haven't even
those are
talked about
spoilers.
that. I'm hoping if you're watching this, you've seen it.
Yeah, and if you haven't,
If you haven't, go watch it.
you should have listened. I'll put some at the beginning.
But yeah, so she goes and meets with this man. I'm having trouble remembering his.
I really don't remember his name
significance.
or his
Yeah.
significance. He's
But-
just there. It's a man.
It's a man. She's meeting him
It's a guy.
outside of the. She's meeting him outside of the
It's a lad.
the school, which she's still enrolled at for some reason.
Yes.
I would have left after the maggots personally. But
I would
she's-
have not been at the dance school period. So
I wouldn't have gone into the dance school, but she's still enrolled there. Ryan clearly would have. Again, if you tune into our video, you can see our resident dancer Ryan giving you a little show. But yeah, so she meets up with this guy, and he is. So he tells her about.
He's a guy.
Oh my god. So,
These are the out of context bloopers I'm gonna say.
she meets up with this guy, and this is where she asks him, "Do you believe in witches?" Very. It's a bit of an on the nose moment,
Yeah, 100%.
but at the same time, I didn't mind it.
It's like winking at the audience,
Yeah,
but it's fun.
it's fun, and that's where he kind of tells her. It was definitely one of those things where everything is laid out for you, right there.
Yeah, everything's at this point just known.
Yeah, and so then he explains there's this witch who started a coven here in this part of Germany, and everything kind of clicks for Susie that the dance school is actually a coven of witches, and they are using magic to terrorize this group of dancers, and so she goes back to the school. And this is where now she's kind of aware of everything. She starts noticing. She starts paying more attention to the teacher's footsteps so she can go and track where they're going.
What's up, Sarah?
So it's in the middle of the night.
Even though you're dead.
Even though you're dead. Rest in
Your
peace.
footsteps thing worked.
You're my favorite. We miss you.
She's the one who does the tongue thing. That's why I did that. Not just
The snake.
No, the one who goes
Ugh. She is, Sarah the snake.
I'm sorry, I got you so distracted. Susie goes back to the
Ryan
dance
and I,
academy.
one thing about Ryan and I, we're never going to finish a story.
Yeah.
Neither of us can finish a story to save our lives. But that's
why
okay.
Nope I had to break down into plot points.
Exactly. But anyways, so she uses Sarah the Snake's footstep trick. She kind of tracks where headmistress is going. She goes outside of her room. She starts following in that direction because she realizes they're not exiting the school, so where are they going at night? They're going somewhere deeper in the school. And then following the footsteps leads her to this corridor of this bright red corridor.
Yeah, which it's like, how do you don't even know necessarily what direction. Like, all Sarah wrote down was the numbers, I think. I don't think Sarah wrote down directions because there's no way to know because Sarah's been doing these numbers from Susie's room.
Yeah.
And so she's like, what if you go the wrong direction?
What if you go the wrong direction? Also, I'm sure at some point, because that was like on a different floor of the house, at some point you're not hearing footsteps.
That too. It's fun.
It's fun. We love it.
Yeah, she gets to that hallway.
But yeah, so she gets to that hallway, and then there she hears these two chefs, cooks.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with some sort of meat, which I think that meat might have been...
Susie?
Not Susie.
Oh, not
but
Susie. Sarah?
Sarah, I could see that. I think it...
You think
I
it took cannibalism?
maybe not cannibalism, but I do think maybe they were using it to like create some sort of witch's brew. Again, this is all
Theory.
this is all my theory. Yeah. They could have truly just been preparing like lunch for the next day.
It's good soup.
It was just the way that they were playing with it. They were definitely like playing with it, tossing it around, slapping it a little. They were just kind of playing with it, which I think is weird for. And also, it's the middle of the night. You know what I mean? Like, why? It's probably like 1 a.m. It's probably the witching hour. It's probably like 3:33 a.m. They're kind of just like playing with this meat in the kitchen. And also, whenever Susie walks past, they like immediately stop talking and like turn around. So I was thinking there might be a little bit of maybe not cannibalism, but like. I think they might have been like toying with human flesh for witch purposes, personally. But Susie runs past, she makes it past, and then that's where she kind of continues to follow this corridor, and it takes her to this office area. Do we see the office area before that?
No, not up until this point. I don't think so.
I don't think
you're kind of just confined to the first 2 floors.
Yeah. So we see this little office area, and it is this very interesting beige floral, very bright office area. No windows, I believe, and it's kind of like hinted that, and also this area, it's like behind these bright glowing red window stained glass doors. So she goes into the office, and it's kind of mentioned that this is like it's implied that this is the headmistress's office. And this is where she's looking around, and she's like, there has to be another way, there has to be. And this is where we start seeing some like green flash over her, which is why I think green could kind of be like the symbol, like indicate like an epiphany. I think that could be like the symbol of that color if there is one. But then she sees these little irises, and she remembers what she heard Patricia say, which is secret, and she heard irises, which up until that point I think it was kind of implied that we don't really know what she's talking about, but it's like, as a viewer, I'll say like I was thinking maybe that's the name of someone. Yeah. Maybe she's referencing like an eye for some reason.
I was gonna say the eyes at the beginning. I always liked the fact that it's irises, and then at the beginning there's eyes.
Exactly.
Because I'll spoil something for my movie coming out, but I'm gonna put irises in my movie. It's somewhere.
Y'all heard it here first.
I want to do it.
Do you have a title for your movie?
Yeah, it's already out there at Bloodstream.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Go watch Bloodstream when it comes out.
In 2023.
In 2020. Ooh.
It's actually part of Welcome Week. It's not going to just be called Bloodstream.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then we go, and she opens it, and this is where we hear even louder, like, witchy chanting. And there's this, like, script all on the walls, and it looks like... it does not look like English. It looks like, I'm assuming, Latin. Yeah, and we just see like Latin on this like very dark tunnel, and that's also just lit with like red everywhere. Yeah, and that's where you know, she's walking into the belly of the beast.
She's got is it a knife? Yeah, it's a knife.
Yeah, she's like.
That's my favorite shot in the movie, and like the red is like growing on her face.
Yeah, it's so good, and it is just so. This is just the most beautiful scene in the movie, in my opinion. Yeah. And she's just walking through this tunnel. It's getting darker. The chanting's getting louder. And that's where we see all of the teachers.
The witches.
Give me your best cackle.
I sound like Elmo.
Yeah. But anyway, so
it's actually Elmo. Plot twist.
Plot twist. It's big. Imagine seeing Big Bird in that setting. That's horrifying.
It would actually kind of make sense because he kind of would match the colors.
The primary. But anyway, so we see all the teachers. Yeah. They're meeting, and they're talking about her. Actually, they're talking about Susie. They're like, that American girl. We need to get rid of her.
She's an American girl.
She's an American girl.
I now have a sample of Sage.
It's interesting because I think what makes our podcast work is that you're the dancer and I'm the... So, like, you bring a lot for our... you offer a lot for our video watchers. And I'm the singer, of course. So I offer a lot to our audio listeners, which is a really good combo.
I was dancing the whole time she said that.
Yeah, but we... Literally, this episode is so funny. I love this episode. Editing is gonna go crazy on this episode.
I know, it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun for you.
But yeah, so all the teachers are talking about Susie, and it's kind of like she knows she's on to us.
Yeah, she's on to
I forget
us.
like the specific stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, we need to get rid of her. We need to. They're plotting to kill her essentially.
Yeah.
And
because they're snakes.
Yeah. So Susie is like stopped in her tracks because they're planning to kill her, and then we kind of see her. I think if I'm remembering correctly, she makes some sort of noise or something that kind of alerts them. I'm not sure if it's that or if they might even see her, but essentially she goes and hides in this room, and in this room she sees someone sleeping, and it kind of parallels the shadow that they see in the gymnasium, where it's like someone snoring behind a red sheet, and then she goes and the shadow starts talking to her. And it's kind of like provoking her. And she swipes back the curtain to see there's no one there. Except there is. And then that's where it's revealed that is the spirit of...
It's the Invisowitch.
That is the Mama Witch herself.
Invisowitch.
Invisowitch.
That's what I call her.
Invisowitch
she's invisible.
TM.
Wait, am I right? She's invisible. Because then she turns into a skeleton. Or am I thinking...
No, she does. She is invisible because she's invisible, and then they're using one of the students. I wasn't sure if it was Patricia or Sarah. I don't think it was, as like a voodoo doll.
Yeah, but was it a skeleton? Or was it... I can't remember.
I don't think we see it. No, I don't think we ever see her.
Oh, okay.
We do kind of see like this like
else.
rotting like... Yeah. So originally who is invisible, and then Susie goes and like stabs her. And that's where we see her physical body, which is like this really appalling, like rotting. It's not even a corpse. Well, how would you describe it? It's like this, like.
It's like a decayed corpse.
Yeah, it's like
it's like mid-process of.
It looks like a bloated.
I forget the cycles.
Like it looks like a bloated, sort of like rotting.
It's kind of like the Psycho Mother.
Yes, exactly.
It's like in that midway between nearly a skeleton, not a skeleton. Yeah.
I think that was like really interesting. It's interesting because I think that's what I really liked about this movie is that it did lean a lot on like cheesy, oversaturated horror elements, which I liked, but at the same time there were some things that were just so signature to Argento.
Yeah.
And even like the dead bodies we see are just very like signature, and even here. And this is kind of like the final boss, if you want to think of it that way, and it is just this horrifying dead body, and it's very like unique. It wasn't like he just used like a skeleton or something, or like your typical zombie. It was this very grotesque, like eerie body, which I thought was interesting. And then we see one of the students that was killed, and I'm not sure if it was Patricia or Sarah, to be frank, or it could have not been.
I don't think it was Frank.
You don't think it was Frank?
You said to be frank. It wasn't Frank. Like, that's why I mean it was... I don't think it was Frank.
I don't think it was Frank either.
Yeah. But I did know the kid walked in the room and goes, I'll have what she's having. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Why'd they include that in the middle of this scene?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he takes a sip of coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't make that up.
No, that was like I think that was one of the more poignant parts of the movie. That part was what made me want to be a film major. That's what made me want to transfer into UT's RTF.
That joke right there.
Specifically that one joke.
I'll have what
she's having. Take sip of coffee while this grotesque decayed corpse is sitting on the bed, just absolutely like shrieking. And then one of the students who definitely was turned into a voodoo doll by her teachers,
Frank.
like, bussin'. That was kind of funny too, actually. That was actually really funny too. That was even funnier than the Frank bit.
What?
Was when like.
Are you actually calling it the Frank bit? Frank's not even in this movie, Sage.
What are you talking about?
No, now you're making me. I'm being convinced that I haven't seen this movie now.
No, yeah, remember? Because like after like I'll have what she's having, take a sip of the coffee. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, after that. Like the student who was turned into this like voodoo doll with like screws in her wrist, screws in her neck, blood dripping, kind of decaying. She like busts through the wardrobe, and that was like the funniest. That was like the most quintessential like witch movie horror scene I've ever seen. Like she busts out, and it's like this. She's like starts like cackling, and it was very just hilarious, and I loved it.
Beautiful and hilarious is how we describe this morbid movie,
Beautiful.
and I think that makes it great.
It was stunning. It was so quaint. That's where we see Susie. I believe after that she kind of just escapes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I can't remember off the top of my head because by this point, this is where the movie goes all out.
Yes.
Fest.
Oh, here we go. I remember. So yes, so the voodoo doll girl busts through the wardrobe, and then that's where Susie stabs the mother, the witch, and her body is revealed, and then she kills her, and that causes the entire school to go up in flames, and the school is destroyed, and then that is the ending, and you have been watching Suspiria, which I thought was so
that
beautiful.
leans in. I feel like that leans in especially to the Alice in Wonderland feel.
Yes.
I mean, I know I'm comparing it to Alice in Wonderland. I doubt that's what Argento did, but that's what I think of when I watch this
that's
movie.
a fair assessment. I did see that it was heavily influenced by Snow White, which I thought was interesting because that, again, we have like this very like wide-eyed girl
Living in a small town world.
living in just a small town girl. Yeah, but we see her like go in. We see her go in, like in Snow White. This girl who's very just bright-eyed, has this very just like pure, optimistic outlook on the world. And even in there, we have a witch at play. So I think that was like a fair assessment. And I think stylistically, I could see this being compared to Snow White as well, especially like the architecture of it, of the dance academy, and the colors. But
So many colors.
Oh, so many. All the colors of the rainbow.
Yes.
But
except for purple,
yeah.
which makes me
And
sad.
orange a little.
They had pink. No, they didn't have pink. The buildings were pink.
It was pretty much just the primary colors and green.
Yeah.
But which I thought was interesting.
Well, because those are the strongest colors. I mean,
Yeah.
those colors mix with everything. They can be put on everything. Like, they always look good.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the ending. I thought it was so satisfying that they saved the witch element to the very end.
And it kind of becomes a whole separate movie. And it
Yes.
rips off. Because I don't know what Giallo movies he made before this. I want to say Deep Red might have been before this. I don't know for sure. So this might have been, honestly, now that I think about it, his like way of like trying to escape making constant Giallo. Because I don't know what he made before this. I'm not like, oh, Dario Argento is my favorite director. Like, no, I haven't seen much of his stuff other than this. But it'd be interesting to see that. Because like this is very much a distinct, like the beginning feels like a slasher murder mystery.
Yeah.
And then by the end, it's just total witch and spells and Satan and things like. I mean, not Satan, but you know what I mean.
But yeah, overall, this was my first time watching Suspiria, and I love it. I definitely see why this is your favorite movie in particular.
Yeah, did you see me in it? You know what I mean?
Oh my God, was that you?
No, yeah, that was
you?
me. The
You were the one that
I'll have what she's having.
that was
that was me.
you. Oh my God, was that your first acting credit?
Yep,
Wow,
little fetus Ryan
little
in
fetus.
1977.
Wow, little Easter egg. For the
Yeah,
listeners.
so I turned 50 something today because of that.
Happy birthday.
Happy 55th birthday. But no, like, do you see kind of my personality in that movie?
100%. I definitely like that is a horror fans movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is a film majors movie because the thing is, I think that Suspiria should be watched as like an example of style and an example of directorial success versus just like a consumable movie.
Yeah, you're not there for the story. You're there for
No.
the experience.
You're there for like the stylizing. You're there to see like a showcase of the horror genre.
Yeah,
and
and
how
even-
unique it is.
And even then, like, the story holds up.
It does.
Even though its visuals
Yeah.
and stuff are better than the actual
Yeah.
story and acting. The acting and story isn't bad. by any
you're there
means.
for a melodramatic experience,
Mhm.
which I loved. I think any gripe I had with the movie was just because of its age.
Mhm.
And sometimes the dubbing did get a little distracting.
Yeah.
But I still thought that was cool because you were telling me how
Argento let all
Argento.
the actors speak in their languages, I believe. I'd have to confirm that. I mean, I'm sure most of them were Italian and most of them were like German and Italian, but he let them speak in their own language.
Yeah.
And then just overdubbed, like there's an overdubbed Italian cut, Russian cut, English cut. Why say movie cut? Spanish cut. Like they have, I mean, obviously most movies have language cuts, but I feel like with this one it's such such of a bigger deal, I feel.
Yeah.
Like.
I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie a lot, and I definitely see you in it.
And I recommend y'all watch it, especially if you're going to see which we're going to talk about my movie on the podcast once it releases, which won't be until like 2023, 2024. But yeah, because that's already been announced. Like, it's one of those weird things, like usually movies don't get announced this early, but like we're having to fund it and stuff. So there's a lot of announcing. But yeah, Suspiria is a big inspiration for the style of that short within the anthology.
Yeah. I also want to say, and I mentioned this on our first episode, I just watched Climax recently, and I can 100% see the influence of Suspiria in Climax.
Yeah.
Even though Climax is not a horror movie and it has nothing to do with witchcraft or anything, but the color aspect of it, it takes place at a dance school, except in that one, everyone just has collectively a bad trip.
Yeah.
But like the hysteria of it and like everything, I can definitely just see the Suspiria influence.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
Speaking of things we've been watching recently.
Yeah.
You want to go first? Do you want me? Because we're back to this favorite segment. We skipped it in Note because we only do this once a week.
Yeah, you go first. You go first.
I'd have to look at my Letterboxd now that I think about it. Ooh, Letterboxd. Follow me at Letterboxd at Ryan Rank.
Follow me at Sage Dunlap.
We both have our names there. We're famous.
Makes it easy.
Gross. Can I pick 3 movies?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'll go quick. I watched Vengeance. I just had an interview with BJ Novak. Maybe I'm biased, but that movie was fantastic. I had a lot of fun with it. 4 to 5 stars. I watched League of Super Pets. A lot of people are liking that movie. I thought all the actors didn't want to be there, and it felt like they were just acting for a paycheck. So I gave it 3 stars, although our friend Sophia gave it 4, I think. And Sophia,
I'll have to watch it and settle
it wasn't that good. I'm sorry. We had an argument on Twitter and Instagram DMs about how the movie's not good. And then the last movie I watched was freaking abysmal. I watched The Gray Man. It was such a bad movie. It was beautiful. It was great cinematography, a fun cast. How could you not get better writers? And I think the Russo brothers helped writing it. Y'all telling me y'all wrote Endgame and Infinity War, and y'all wrote this? You know what I mean? They wrote those, right?
In
Infinity War and Endgame?
Yeah.
Because I know they directed those, and they directed this too, and they had writing credits on it, I believe. And I was just like, what?
Especially with a budget that big.
Yeah, it's the Netflix's biggest movie budget, $200 million, and I gave it 2.5 stars out of 5. That's Morbius level bad.
And who's in it? Chris Evans?
Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas.
Those are all actors I love.
I love them too.
That's literally just a Knives Out reunion.
I will say...
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I will say that Chris Evans was the best part of the movie. He has a mustache and he's unhinged the entire time. Like, he says at one point, if you want to make an omelet, you have to kill some people or something. And it's just like, it's fun. It's fun. But it's awful.
Well, I won't be watching it.
Yeah, I won't be watching it. Oh, wait, I did.
2 hours you'll never get back.
Yeah, 2 hours that are gone.
Well, on a more positive note, I finished Severance, which is old news. I probably started that movie 3 months ago. I just now, maybe 2 months ago, but I just now finished it. I'm obsessed with it. It is by far my favorite show of the year so far. It is probably in my top 5 shows I've ever seen. It is so good. If you are a fan of Black Mirror, if you kind of like a sci-fi mystery drama, I would 100% recommend it. And Adam Scott is in it. And I don't think anything Adam Scott is in, I generally enjoy.
I have a movie I could show you he's in that you would hate.
What?
Hellraiser Bloodlines.
Oh, okay. That'll be our next week's.
No.
What I've watched recently.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, definitely watch Severance. You need to watch Severance, Ryan.
I gotta watch that one show I'm not gonna say yet because that's a surprise episode until next week. Actually, no, we'll leave it a full surprise.
Yeah.
But we know what we won't leave a surprise. What next week's episode is.
Yes. What is next week's episode?
We're gonna be seeing Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
I am so excited. Watch Bodies, 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 and Charlie XCX has an original song in it. And if you know me, you know I love Charlie XCX.
You do. A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
And then come watch our episode, because we are actually going to be doing this one a week after it released, because we realized we released Nope right around the time the movie came out. So obviously no one was going to tune into the podcast or they'd forget about it. So we're trying a week after the movie's release, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Before we log off, do you have any birthday wishes?
Not really. I hope my move back to here is smooth.
Yes.
And I hope I can find a desk that fits my computer, because the apartment I'm staying at, the desk they have, I had my roommate measure it, and it doesn't fit any of my computer stuff. So I have to buy a whole new desk.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yes, I'm going to treat myself to a desk.
We'll keep the listeners updated on that.
Yeah. Actually, real birthday wish, I hope now that I have more time, I hope I can make YouTube videos again on my own.
Ooh, okay.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
Haven't done
I think
that
you
in
should.
a year, so...
Yeah, I would watch. I'd subscribe.
Y'all
should subscribe
Sage
too.
is a subscriber.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll shout it out one day if I actually make videos.
Yes.
Anyway, I've been Ryan.
I've been Sage.
And thanks for listening to the Unscripted Podcast.
Bye.